Welcome to Beyond the Lines, presented by Wizard Sports Picks. This is Ian Cameron delivering this edition of the show to you for Sunday, November the 2nd, and I will give you 4 picks for Sunday's NFL slate, Week 9 in the National Football League. Again, wizardsportspicks.com. Make sure you check out the website. Daily premium picks available from myself and a bunch of great handicappers on the website. 3-pick and 5-pick combo packs available as well. In all sports. So make sure you visit wizardsportspicks.com. I entered the weekend in a very good red-hot run currently in various sports with pretty good results across the board. A 10-2, 83% NHL streak this week, 13-8, 31-19, 62% all sports streaks. Coming into the weekend as well, along with a 24-14, 63% NFL and college football streak. Again, it's been a great run with premium selections on the website, so I encourage you to check out the great premium picks from some of the most talented and successful handicappers in the world. Make sure you check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. All right, I'm going to give you 4 NFL picks for this Sunday slate coming up. We will begin with the Chicago Bears taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The current line is Chicago 2.5-point road favorites in this game, 51 the total. The Chicago Bears offensively should do damage because everybody's done damage against the Cincinnati Bengals defense this season. And we saw it on full display last week in their shocking, horrific loss to the New York Jets. Offense with Justin Fields that had struggled to just gain first downs, let alone punch in touchdowns and score points in bunches. And yet the Cincinnati Bengals' wretched defense had no answers for what the New York Jets did. And I don't think they're going to have many answers here against Chicago. Now, Chicago does have a couple of injuries at receiver, but you would think that Ben Johnson, as head coach, a great offensive mind, will direct this offense to success. Obviously, working with Caleb Williams. I would expect the Bears here to be able to move the football. And Cincinnati's likely to be out Trey Hendrickson, who is their lead pass rusher. And this is a defense that has had issues in the secondary. I can't explain what's happened to Cam Taylor-Britt in their secondary. This was a promising player at one point. He's had a dismal season. The secondary has struggled to cover receivers, stay with receivers one-on-one down the field. The pass rush has been non-existent. And now you take Trey Hendrickson off that defense, it's going to make things even more difficult for this Bengals defense against Chicago to slow them down. That being said, Joe Flacco, there was some question about his status for this game, but it looks like he will suit up for the Cincinnati Bengals here against the Chicago Bears. So I would expect certainly Cincinnati's offense to have success. I'll tell you this about Joe Flacco and the Bengals offense. They look good against Pittsburgh in their win on Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago. And you can't blame the Cincinnati offense for the loss last week. They did their job. They moved the football against the Jets, but unfortunately the defense had no answers. But Joe Flacco and this Bengals offense has looked good. The O-line's protected him well enough, and Chicago has had issues getting a consistent pass rush. So I think Flacco can stay upright. He'll find his weapons, and we know there's still weapons on this team led by Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So I like over 50.5 in this game. That is the best number available right now. Actually, 51 is what we're looking at right now with this total. It's a high total, but it is indeed high for a reason. Let's not forget Chicago's defense last week went up against a Baltimore offense that was down to Tyler Huntley at starting quarterback and still struggled to get stops in that game. So I think both offenses have success, and we see that game go over 51 between the Bears and Bengals on Sunday. All right, let's move along to my second NFL selection for Week 9. We're going to go to the game between the San Francisco Giants and San Francisco 49ers, and the New York Giants. There we go. We got San Francisco taking on the Giants. Baseball got on the brain for a minute. We've got San Francisco 2.5-point road favorites, 48 the total here in this game. I have a mild lean to the over here, but the pick that I'm going to use officially here on this video, I'm going to take the 2.5 here with the New York Giants as a slight home underdog. You look at this San Francisco 49ers team. They're still very much banged up. There will be no Brock Purdy for this game. Mac Jones will once again get the start at quarterback. And the offense hasn't been nearly as functional the last couple weeks. We remember when Mac Jones first took over for Brock Purdy, he was having some big performances. That offense was having some big games. I haven't seen that nearly as much from San Francisco the last couple of weeks. Even in the victory against Atlanta on Sunday Night Football, it's not like the offense marched up and down the field with great success. And then last week, they got shut down and bottled up on the road in their loss to the Houston Texans. So, there's definitely still some concerns about this team. Now, they do have George Kittle back. We'll see if they can get Christian McCaffrey going. We'll see if Juwan Jennings as well has returned. Still might be without Ricky Pearsall, though, on that offense. And let's not forget the defensive injuries that the San Francisco 49ers still have with Nick Bosa and obviously Fred Warner, which was a huge loss for them a couple of weeks ago with his season-ending injury. And the 49ers defense just hasn't been the same this year. Now, the New York Giants, it's been a rough, that's putting it mildly, it's been a very rough last 5 quarters for them. They gave up 33 points to the Denver Broncos, all of which in the fourth quarter, and then responded by giving up another 38 points in a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles last week. So this Giants defense has given up 71 points, if you can believe it, in their last 5 quarters of football. So makes you think, why would you want to back them here? But I do believe back home, where the Giants have actually notched home underdog outright upset victories in each of their last 2 times they've been at home and priced in the underdog role. We remember they beat the Chargers outright as a home underdog earlier this season in what was Jackson Dart, rookie quarterback's first start in the NFL. We remember, of course, a few weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, the Giants were a 7.5-point home underdog against Philadelphia, won that game outright. I believe Jackson Dart and this Giants offense can have success here. This 49ers defense is still injury-riddled, shorthanded, and quite frankly, not playing great football. And I think the Giants can have success. Now, the Giants defense is the question. But I think now, after some of these tough matchups they've had with Bo Nix in Denver and Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia twice in the last 3 games, I think now we're going to see the Giants defense, especially back home, we have seen them play a little bit better, be able to contain San Francisco enough to give themselves a chance at the outright win. So I will recommend the New York Giants plus 2.5 against the San Francisco 49ers. All right, let's move down to the Carolina Panthers and the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay 13.5-point home favorites, the current number, 44 the total. This is the ugly dog special for me. I'm going to recommend and take the Carolina Panthers in this game plus 13.5. It's an ugly underdog. I think the biggest concern I would have in backing Carolina here is the offensive line. They are dealing with multiple starters injured. They have to contend with Rashawn Gary, Micah Parsons, and obviously a Green Bay Packer defensive line that's ferocious, that can get after the quarterback. That's the gravest concern that I have here. But the Green Bay Packers consistently under Matt LaFleur, and this goes back years, they have really had an issue as far as laying bigger points as a favorite. And all you have to do is look at Green Bay this season alone to see the issues and the problems that they have had when laying bigger points in the past. You look at them prior to this matchup at home against Carolina and how they have struggled ATS in that bigger favorites role. You look at it coming into this game. They were 7.5-point road favorites at Cleveland against the Browns. They lost outright. They were 6.5-point road favorites at Dallas. That game ended in a 40-40 tie, another non-cover. 15-point favorites against the Cincinnati Bengals. They only won by 9. And in that game in particular, when they were 15-point home favorites against Cincy at Lambeau Field, almost a playing with your food kind of performance from Green Bay. Like they didn't really put their foot on the throat of what at the time was a really bad Cincinnati team. And Joe Flacco, who just got signed the week before that game, making his first start with the Bengals, they didn't really show that, we're going to put this game away and put it out of reach quickly. And they let Cincinnati hang around, and they did not cover in that game. And then, of course, they were 7-point road favorites at Arizona, and they were life and death to win that game straight up, surviving with a 27-23 win. So when they've been, 7 points or more favorite this year, the Green Bay Packers, they're 0-4 against the spread. Now, they're the much better team. There's no question. But you've got Carolina off a blowout loss to the Buffalo Bills, 40-9 last week. It was ugly. Andy Dalton was horrific. Fumbles, turnovers. It was bad. But the Carolina Panthers do get Bryce Young back at quarterback for this game, and he has struggled on the road this year for the Panthers. There's no doubt, but he's still a huge upgrade from what the version of Andy Dalton we saw last week. I think he can only help this Carolina offense. And again, we have seen from the Packers in these bigger favorite spots, them kind of not put their foot down for 60 minutes and kind of let these weaker teams hang around. So as ugly as it is, I'm going to take Carolina here plus 13.5 against Green Bay. And my fourth and final NFL game that I will discuss will be the Denver Broncos taking on the Houston Texans. We've got Houston, 2.5 point home favorites against Denver, 40.5 the total. I like this spot for Houston, and I'm going to take Houston here. -2, actually -1.5 at a couple of books is still available as well. We will make it Houston -1.5 here against the Denver Broncos. Houston showed me a little bit of a buy sign last week in their victory against San Francisco. We wanted to see C.J. Stroud and the offense look a little bit better. They did. And we know Houston's got a very good defense still. Let's not forget that. The Houston Texans defense has typically not been their problem. This has been a Houston defense that last year was very good, and this season so far has been very good. You look at the statistics, we've got Houston's defense number 5 in the NFL in yards per play allowed. 5 yards per play allowed, 5th in the NFL in that category. They're number 1 in overall total yards per allowed this year. Number 1 as far as yards per game allowed, 266.9 yards per game given up by this Texans defense. Obviously, we've seen Bo Nix and Denver's offense in the last, they got shut down for the majority of their game against the Giants before that crazy fourth quarter comeback where they erupted for 33 points. And they beat up and battered a horrific Dallas defense last week en route to a 44-24 victory. But there has been a pattern with Bo Nix and Denver that when they step up against better defenses, they have not always played that as well on that side of the football. And last year especially, a lot of their great games on offense with the gaudy numbers came against some of the weaker defenses in the NFL. So I think at home, Houston defensively can do enough here and kind of make life difficult for Bo Nix. And they'll gain a little confidence from last week's win against San Francisco. And they know that every win's important as they try to stay in the AFC playoff picture. So I'm going to take Houston here in this spot. -1.5. You got Denver off back-to-back home wins. The epic comeback against the Giants and then the blowout over the Dallas Cowboys last week. I think this sets up pretty solid from a situational standpoint for the Texans as well. And I will recommend Houston here, -1.5 as a slight home favorite over the Denver Broncos. That's it for this edition of Beyond the Lines, presented by Wizard Sports Picks. I'm Ian Cameron. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the Wizard Sports Picks YouTube channel, and again, check out all the premium selections from our unbelievably talented roster of handicappers at wizardsportspicks.com. I'm Ian Cameron. This has been the Sunday, November 2nd edition of Beyond the Lines, presented by Wizard Sports Picks.